Most people think their house is the most expensive thing they'll ever buy. That's wrong. The most expensive thing the average person buys over a lifetime isn't a house. It isn't a college education. It isn't healthcare. It's cars. Specifically, the pattern of buying, financing, and replacing cars every 5 to 7 years for 40 straight years. I'm going to prove this to you with simple math, the kind a kid could follow. And then I'm going to show you what Marcus and Elena have spent on cars over the past 10 years and what it's actually cost them in retirement money. The difference will surprise you. Let me start with one simple example to set up the math. Imagine you buy a new car for $40,000. You finance it because that's what most people do. Your monthly payment is around $700 for 6 years. Insurance for a new car is about $200 a month. Gas, maintenance, registration, and small repairs add up to maybe $250 a month on average. So your total monthly cost is $1,150. Multiply that by 12 months. That's $13,800 a year to drive a $40,000 car. Hold that number in your head. $13,800 a year. We'll come back to it. Now here's the trap. Most people don't keep a car for the entire time they own it. The average American replaces their car every 6 years. So you buy that $40,000 car, drive it for 6 years, and then trade it in for another car. When you trade it in, the dealer gives you maybe $14,000 for it. The car lost $26,000 in value while you owned it. That's not a flat loss. That's how cars work. They're depreciating assets. Every year you own a new car, it's worth less. Then you buy another new car for $42,000 because cars got slightly more expensive. You finance again. The cycle starts over. Now let's add this up over a lifetime. Most people start buying cars around age 22 and stop driving regularly around age 75. That's 53 years of driving. If you replace your car every 6 years, that's about 9 cars over your lifetime. If each car costs you $13,800 a year on average, and you drive for 53 years, that's $13,800 multiplied by 53 equals $731,400. $750,000 spent on cars over your lifetime, driving normal cars, doing what everyone else does. Most people will spend more on cars than they spend on their actual house, and way more than they ever save for retirement, and nobody talks about it. Now let me show you Marcus and Elena, because they took different paths starting at age 25. Marcus loves cars. He always has. At 25, he bought his first new car, a nice sedan for $30,000. He financed it. His payment was $500 a month. Insurance and everything else added up to another $400 a month. He drove it for 5 years and then upgraded. At age 30, he bought a slightly nicer car for $40,000. New monthly payment, $700. Higher insurance because of the more expensive car. He drove that one for 5 years too. At age 35, he upgraded again. $48,000 this time. Payment, $800. By this point, Marcus had been making car payments continuously for 10 years. Let me add up what Marcus has spent on cars from age 25 to 35. Years 25 to 30, about $10,800 a year on his first car, times 5 years. That's $54,000. Years 30 to 35, about $13,200 a year on his second car, times 5 years. That's $66,000. Total spent on cars in 10 years, $120,000. What does Marcus have to show for it? A car worth maybe $20,000 today. He spent $120,000 to end up with a $20,000 asset. He destroyed $100,000 of value. That's not a moral judgment. He drove the cars. He got real use out of them. They got him to work and back. They took him on road trips. The money wasn't wasted in the sense that he got nothing. But the question is what else that money could have done. Now let me show you Elena. At age 25, Elena bought a used Toyota for $12,000. She paid cash from her savings. The car had 60,000 miles on it. It was 3 years old. It worked perfectly fine. Her insurance was $80 a month because the car was older and cheaper. She spent maybe $50 a month on average for maintenance over the years. She drove that Toyota for 10 years, from age 25 to age 35. The car held up. She did regular maintenance. She replaced the tires twice. She replaced the brakes once. She had one major repair around year 7 that cost $2,000. Let me add up what Elena spent on cars from age 25 to 35. Initial purchase, $12,000. Insurance over 10 years, $80 a month times 120 months. That's $9,600. Maintenance, gas, separate from Marcus's similar gas costs, and small repairs, about $50 a month average over 10 years. That's $6,000. The major repair at year 7, $2,000. Total spent on cars in 10 years, $29,600. What does Elena have to show for it? A car worth maybe $4,000 today. So she spent $29,600 minus the remaining $4,000 value, which is $25,600 actual loss. Marcus spent $120,000. Elena spent $29,600. The difference is $90,400. Let me say that again. Over 10 years, just by choosing different car strategy, Marcus spent $90,400 more than Elena did on the same task, getting to work and back. Now here's where it gets really interesting. What if Elena had taken that $90,400 difference, vested it, not all at once, but spread out over the 10 years as the savings happened? If Elena had taken about $9,000 a year and invested it in an index fund earning 10% on average, after 10 years, she'd have about $144,000. So Elena's car decisions, compared to Marcus's car decisions, gave her $144,000 more in invested wealth at age 35. Let that sink in. Two people started at the same place. Both got to work the entire time. Both had reliable transportation. One person ended up with $144,000 more just because of how she handled cars. And we're only 10 years in. Let me extend it. If Marcus continues his pattern of buying a new car every 5 years, and Elena continues buying reliable used cars and keeping them for 10 or 12 years, the gap will compound dramatically. By age 50, 25 years in, Marcus will have spent something like $400,000 on cars. Elena will have spent something like $80,000 on cars. The difference is $320,000. If Elena invested that difference along the way, her car-related savings alone would be worth more than $700,000 by age 50. By retirement age 65, the math gets absurd. Marcus will have spent more than $700,000 on cars over his lifetime. Elena will have spent maybe $150,000. The difference, invested over 40 years, would be worth more than $2 million. $2 million. Just from car decisions. Just from buying used, reliable cars and keeping them, instead of buying new and replacing every 5 years. This is what I mean when I say cars are the most expensive purchase of your lifetime. Not because any single car is expensive, because the pattern compounds across decades and the opportunity cost is enormous. Now let me explain why this happens, because it's not just about being thrifty. It's about how cars are designed to extract money from you. Cars are depreciating assets. That means they lose value over time. They are the only major thing most people buy that loses value while they own it. Houses generally appreciate. Index funds generally appreciate. Education generally appreciates in earning power. Cars only lose value. A new car loses about 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Within 5 years, a new car has lost about half its value. Within 10 years, most cars have lost 80% of their value. If you're buying new cars, you are absorbing that depreciation curve. Every year you own a new car, you're losing a meaningful chunk of money. The depreciation isn't a bill you can see. It's invisible. It just shows up when you try to sell or trade in the car, and the value is much lower than you expected. When you buy a used car, you let someone else absorb the steepest part of the depreciation curve. You buy the car after the worst losses are already over. The car is more reliable than people think because manufacturing has gotten better. A car with 60,000 miles on it can easily run another 100,000 miles or more with basic maintenance. That's exactly what Elena did. She let someone else lose the first $20,000 of the car's value. She paid for the remaining $12,000 of value. She drove the car until it was nearly worn out. She extracted maximum value from a car that had already lost maximum value. Marcus did the opposite. He bought new cars during the worst depreciation years. He paid for cars during the years when they were losing the most value. Then, he traded them in just as they were starting to stabilize and bought another new car to start the depreciation cycle over. There's a second trap with cars. It's called payment psychology. When people think about a car, they think about the monthly payment instead of the total cost. A $700 monthly payment seems manageable, but that $700 a month for 6 years is $50,400 in payments, plus interest, plus the trade-in value you lost. Most people never multiply the monthly number number by all the month. When Marcus bought his $40,000 car, he wasn't really thinking $40,000. He was thinking $700 a month. The big number scared him. The monthly number seemed fine. So he made the decision based on the small number while ignoring the big one. When Elena buys a car, she thinks about the total cost. $12,000 to buy, maybe $1,500 a year to operate. She's calculating the total math, not just the monthly part. There's a third trap. It's called identity buying. People often buy cars based on what they want the car to say about them. The nice car says they're successful. The luxury car says they've made it. The sporty car says they're young. People aren't just buying transportation. They're buying messages they want to send. This is the most expensive trap because the messages cost real money. A $40,000 car that says I'm successful costs $26,000 more than a $14,000 car that does the same job. That extra $26,000 is the cost of the message. And the message wears off. Within a year, nobody notices the car anymore. The message faded. The cost did not. Marcus has fallen for this several times. He'll never admit it, but each car upgrade was about feeling more successful, not about better transportation. Elena drives her old Toyota because she doesn't need her car to say anything. She doesn't care what it says. Her wealth speaks for itself in her bank account, not on her bumper. Now let me give you the framework that would change a normal person's car spending forever. Step 1. Decide what cars are actually for. They're for transportation. They get you from point A to point B safely and reliably. That's it. Anything beyond reliable transportation is a luxury you're paying for. Step 2. Buy used. Specifically, buy a car that's 2 to 4 years old with under 50,000 miles. The previous owner has absorbed the worst depreciation. You get a nearly new car at a fraction of the price. Step 3. Pay cash if you can. If you must finance the smallest amount possible for the shortest time possible. Avoid 72-month and 84-month car loans. Those are designed to make you feel like the monthly payment is small while the total cost balloons. Step 4. Keep the car. The longer you own a paid-off car, the cheaper it gets to operate per year. The first few years are the most expensive because of depreciation. Years 6 through 15 are the cheapest. Most cars can run 200,000 miles or more if you maintain them properly. That's at least 15 years of driving for most people. Step 5. When you eventually replace it, repeat the process. Buy used, pay cash if possible. Keep it for 10 or 15 years. Step 6. Take everything you save and invest it. Whatever you would have been paying in car payments, put that into an index fund instead. Within a decade, you'll have $100,000 or more from doing nothing but choosing different cars. Now let me come back to Marcus and Elena one more time. Marcus is 35 today. He's had 3 cars over the past decade. He's spent $120,000 on transportation. He owns a $20,000 car right now and a $20,000 mountain of He'll do this again from 35 to 45 and again from 45 to 55. By the time he's 75, his cars will have cost him close to $1 million in direct spending and another $1 million in opportunity cost. Elena is 35 today. She's had 1 car over the past decade. She's spent $29,600 on transportation. She owns a car worth $4,000 and a brokerage account that's $144,000 larger than it would have been if she'd made Marcus's choices. She'll do this again from 35 to 50 when she'll buy her second car ever. By the time she's 75, her cars will have cost her about $150,000 in direct spending, and the savings will have grown into multiple millions through compounding. Same 50 years, same need to get from point A to point B. Wildly different lifetime costs. The point of this video isn't that you should drive a beat-up car you hate. The point is that you should know what your car decisions are actually costing you across decades. Most people don't. Most people see their monthly payment and never multiply it out. Most people get a new car every 5 or 6 years and never realize they're trading away their retirement. Do it. If you love cars and have plenty of money for them, that's a legitimate choice. Buy what you want, but know what you're paying. Don't lie to yourself that the car is just transportation when it's actually costing you $1 million over your lifetime. Make the decision with eyes open. If you're trying to build wealth and you're driving a new car you finance every 6 years, you found your leak. That's the leak. Not your coffee, not your subscriptions, not your dinners out. The car is leaking the water out of the bucket faster than anything else in your budget. Plug the leak. Drive a used car, keep it for a decade, take what you save and invest it. Watch your bucket finally start to fill. Most people don't realize that the difference between being broke and being wealthy is often hidden in their driveway. 2 people with the same income, same job, same expenses finances everywhere else can end up $2 million apart by retirement just based on their car choice. You don't have to be one of those people losing $2 million. The choice is yours. Drive less car, save more wealth. Future you will thank you.